we don't really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long, got to keep. But now everybody knows, got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep going.
What you want to be going, you will see. It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, put a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
You know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long, got to keep going.
All right. And we're back. Good evening. Get in here. This is going to be a deeper dive into the video that we put out this week. Hopefully this new format works for everybody. We would really love to have your feedback on whether or not this is working out. So here's the plan. Okay. Just so we can lay out the land. We had a lot of requests over the past to do more like shorter content, right? Shorter videos. And we tried to cut out the content from the live stream so we could just repurpose that. Obviously, it's like really good information. However, sometimes it was still too long. So we tried to do the video first, and then we can do the deeper dive on the live stream and kind of peel back some of the layers. That way, if you want the layers, you know where to find them. And if you just want the information and the structure, then you find that in the video section. So we would love to have your feedback on that. So recap, tonight we're going over John and Jane, a military couple who recently retired. And like many, they were worried about their financial future. They have their story is not unique, actually. There are a lot of people who are facing this same issue. It's just that probably most of them haven't realized it yet, or they don't realize it until it's too late. So they had come to some realizations about their income and just what would support them in the long run. We're going to walk through kind of how they got to this conclusion and where it became a deal breaker for John. We're calling them John and Jane. You know, when you guys book a call and you go over your stories with us, we change your name so that your privacy is protected. But there were some things that were keeping John up at night and some reasons why this became a non-negotiable. This was a deal breaker. And so when they called in, they were like, we saw something we can't unsee now. We've got to fix this, right?
Right. And a couple things. So they're 45. So John and Jane, 45 years of age. So they're not actually retired, meaning, so John was in the military and he's getting his full disability. There's some pieces to his current specific situation that are somewhat unique, but their time horizon is actually 20 years. So the objective is this: hey, what if something happens? We want to make sure that we're taken care of, and then two, in addition to that, hey, come age 65, we just want to make sure that we're good, that we're taken care of. So.
Well, there's kind of a bittersweet on something that's lying on the underbelly of the situation. And it's this false sense of security that they had just from the products that were being marketed and sold to them. They felt like they had the full suite. They had the whole set, right? They had the whole set of benefits that you can get in order to protect your family, yourself. They thought they had it until they did all the math. And that math included them starting to pick apart, like, okay, in a scenario where this happens, what would this look like? How much income would we need? That's a double-edged sword, right? because what does we mean? So that's where they had done the math. So you ready to jump in,
Yeah, let's do it.
Sean? All right, let's get into it.
So, what we wanted to highlight today, move it over here, is get a call. And this is actually not a unique call that I received, but I think that some of the details around this call makes it unique. And that is, hey, I've got this IUL. And there's a reason we got this IUL. We got this IUL so that if something happened to me or something happened to my spouse, we would be taken care of from a life insurance perspective. But in addition to that, the reason we got this IUL is so that it could produce income from some form of supplemental income to assist us through retirement. That's the whole objective for getting this IUL. We get this IUL, and then all of a sudden, we run across one of your videos, and we are unclear as to why our IUL doesn't function like some of the IULs you talk about on your channel. Why is that? Like, what is it about what we have, and what is it about what you offer that makes things so drastically different? So we really just wanted to understand the reasons as to why. And again, this all kind of formed around understanding what are the current benefits that they currently have based off retirement, based off death benefit, based off survivorship benefits, all of these different pieces to this puzzle. What is it that we have? What's the gap associated with it? And why is it this product doesn't function the same way as what we based off what we have? And so ultimately, what we're talking about is, hey, they've got an IUL, an index universal life insurance policy. And that IUL, they're putting in a certain dollar amount, $10,000 a year. And based off their illustration and their conversation with the life insurance person that they received their illustration from, they have an understanding that the cash value that's going to grow inside this policy, understanding that the illustration has its own limitations, but based off this illustration, in the 20-year period of time that we allow this money to compound, $10,000 a year, there's a certain dollar amount that's going to produce $24,000 a year in income, or in supplemental income, it has the potential to do. So, okay, from their perspective, they walked into things like, hey, we're good. We've got our pensions, we've got our cash value life insurance policies that's properly structured. We are in great shape. But again, after watching us, and as we peel back the layers on some of these things that we think are great, like traditional retirement accounts, most people think that, hey, if I have $1 million in my 401k, when it's time for me to start taking income, that's going to end up being a six-figure income. Until you learn that's not true based off the 4% rule. So as they started peeling back the layers around these products that they already have in place, life insurance, again, pension, retirements, 457 plans, like you name it, with all of these different vehicles in place, from their perspective, hey, we're good. So we thought. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay, here's what had happened. They did the math, but they did the math with the benefits that they currently had together, right? When he was doing the math, when she was doing the math, how much retirement income do we have? Because these vehicles, these products that we're contributing to or that we have access to are all tied to him.
Right.
But why wouldn't you plan on spending your whole life with someone, right? Like, that's the point. And if most of the bulk of benefits are coming from him, and part of the lure around the benefits is to support military having families, right? Like, stay in the military because we will cover your families because you get these benefits. Then it just made sense. Like, that's all the math that needed to happen. What they realized was, you take him out of the equation and she does not have enough to survive. Not only does her income change significantly, but you take him completely out of the equation, and now she's in trouble.
Right.
Now, this wasn't what he wouldn't have signed up for this, right? This is not really, this feels like gaslighting, really, to me, honestly. When you are selling somebody a product that is only if you're here, only if you are involved in these things, then your family can have these benefits, and you spend all of this time, they should be taken care of too, because a lot of them are supporting the service member being in the service, right? So there's a deeper conversation that could happen about that, but the point was that they did the math. They realized that you take him out of the equation and she would not be okay. And he was not okay with that. And I love that he realized that. But this is the dark side of this conversation, is that a lot of people do not realize this until it's too late.
Right.
That's the unfortunate part, is this is the moment. Somebody is sitting in that chair alone, and that's when they realize that the survivorship benefits were cut in half. They realized that all of those things were tied to him. And even though there may be some other benefits, which we'll get into, what their profile looked like, this is when they find out what exactly the math turns out to be. We have the ability to do this. It's not that the people who are helping you sign up for your paperwork at your job or maybe at your post, but it's just unfortunate that we don't know what these numbers look like. We don't know what this scenario would look like. No one's prepared for this, and it's the only thing we are guaranteed in life. Isn't that crazy? And it's the number one thing we are the least prepared for.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does it look like specifically for him? Again, he's in the military, and he's actually not active military anymore, but he still has his income coming from the government job that he currently has. And so he's retired military. He's got several different benefits. He's got his TSP in place. He's got his 457. They've got VA benefits, obviously, and also the SBP, the Survivorship Benefit Plan. And so there's a lot of things in place. But the question is, as long as he's alive, these things function. As long as he's there and available, these things function. But what happens if, for whatever reason, he is no longer there? What happens with these benefits if he is not here, was the question. And so, aside from the fact that, gosh, God forbid something were to happen to him and the heartbreak around him no longer being here, that's actually that's an absolute piece that needs to be rectified. The other piece around that is, from his perspective, what was keeping him up at night. What measure does he need to put in place to make sure his family's taken care of? God forbid this happens. And so, let's get more specific, though. What's the problem? The problem in this case is she makes decent income, but the income isn't enough to currently take care of their lifestyle if he is not in the picture. And yes, they do have survivor benefit plan. What does that mean? That means that 55% of his pension would come to her. But is that 55% of his pension plus whatever the other factors they have in place, is that enough for them to be able to continue to maintain their lifestyle? You know, if something happens to him before the age of 59 and a half, the only income available is the income that she brings in, which means there's a large impact to their lifestyle if that was to take place. So the issue is, how do we address these challenges? Again, they're both 45 years of age, and they realize that their time horizon is somewhere around 20 years. So they're not even looking for an answer right now today. They realize that there's some time available here, but it's, what are those vehicles they need to put in place? What needs to happen in addition to these actions to close whatever that gap would be? And so from that perspective, we really have to identify what is the actual gap. Like, what's the math around the challenge? What is today's income, and what does tomorrow's income need to look like? And so when you dig into the math around this, they have a really decent income at the moment. Make $180,000 a year. There's nothing wrong with that. And of the 180, she brings in 60,000 of that. But God forbid, if something were to happen, their lifestyle would have to change. And he doesn't want that to be the case. So what needs to happen? What vehicles need to be in place? What machine needs to be running in the background to bridge the gap between what they currently make today and if God forbid something were to happen to them?
Well, and let's be honest. If their lifestyle and if their life choices, if their marriage was set up so that she would be breadwinner for their lifestyle, right? Just whatever it costs them to do what they do. $150,000 a year is what their life expenses are. That's what it costs for them to keep on the way that they are today. That doesn't mean inflation, right? But what if Like if the plan were for her to be in that position, she would have maybe chosen a different career.
Right.
So the way that things are set up for them, what works for them is that this is what she does, this is what he does, and so now this is their lifestyle. Now, can they make lifestyle changes? Yes. I think some people will look at that number and go, wow, mine's double. Some people would look at that and go, wow, that's like 4 times the amount of my life expenses, right? Like
Right.
I wish my life expenses were that much and I had that much. So it's a perspective, but for them, just about whatever it is for you, if all of a sudden you had like three, uh, uh, 75% of your income removed, whatever that number is for you, right? That would be a problem for most people.
And what
And
and what I appreciate about this conversation with this couple is they were very much aware as to what the gap was. So it wasn't a, hey, we need to peel back, we need to get the velocity banking worksheet out and kind of understand what's coming in and what's going out. It was no. The reason we got this IUL was to bridge this gap. But as of right now, this IUL that we receive will not do it. And for whatever reason, what you guys talk about on your channel seems to look different. Why is that?
yeah, and a lot of people are looking for, because they're kind of many ways to 10. We talk about there's many ways to 10, right? You can add up all kinds of different numbers to get to 10. It, not one way is the right way. So for them, they had added this thinking, okay, we're almost to 10. We still have more to go. We've got to go out there and find something else we can add to this so that we can get her to 10 no matter what. And that's when they realized, like, wait, we could have gotten to 10 with the same amount of money that we were putting into this IUL. Why? How is that possible? And I think that's what a lot of people are learning over here is for the same amount of effort, the same amount of time, the same amount of resource, you can get far better results.
Right.
And we don't know what we don't know. And so we are constantly just stacking things together, trying to get to 10 when we could have worked smarter, not harder, had we just had access to information. So that's what we're talking about today. That's what we did for them.
That's it. So again, they found us, and the question is, what would putting the same dollar amount that they're currently doing into their current IUL, what would that same dollar amount look like in a different vehicle? And mainly that vehicle that we talk about on this channel, which just happens to be a secure compound interest account, also known as a leveraged IUL. So before we kind of dig into the how and the what, let's just kind of talk through this piece. We talk a lot about a secure compound interest account. What is it? Well, there are many different types. It could be an annuity. It could be just a regular IUL. The fixed piece is about, hey, my growth, my security is fixed. Meaning a secure compound interest account is just simply saying, hey, the money that I'm putting into this vehicle can't be lost due to market risk or whatever the case may be. So I'm looking for something secure. They're 45 years of age, so they want security. They don't want to have to worry about whatever happens with this election here in November, and all of a sudden your what you thought was your nest egg is now impacted. So I'm looking for security based off my age. I don't have time for market loss. And then it's the compound interest piece. What are we talking about? We're talking about your money making money, and the money that your money makes continues to generate compound interest over time. So all a secure compound interest account, a SKIA, all we're referencing is a secure vehicle that builds income over time. That's it. There are many different types. They have currently an IUL. Now, how that IUL is structured, where you get that IUL from, all of those pieces matter, and we'll dig into that. But they currently have an IUL. Most of the time, we're referencing a leveraged IUL. So there's really not much difference between these two products other than structure, other than the word leverage. So it's kind of breaking down or peeling back the layers around what do they currently have and what needs to happen with what they currently have in order for it to function or grow differently. And so today we're going to dig into a lot of the details that we have not, I'll call it covered in depth on this channel. Meaning we've kind of dug into what happens inside of the an IUL as money grows, but we haven't really dug into, I'll call it the specifics of an illustration. So today we want to do that. So this is their illustration. And usually, when I receive illustrations from people, my first question is, when do you break even? Meaning, let's take a look at your illustration and understand whether or not it's designed properly. So my first question is normally, where do you break even? Well, what does that even mean? Well, if you're putting in $10,000 a year, and I'll zoom in, but if you're putting in $10,000 a year, are you are the pieces to the puzzle correct? And what does that mean? Well, if it's a properly structured IUL, it needs to be max funded. I think I have it up here. Yeah. If we're talking about a leveraged IUL, we want it max funded. Option B, obviously it's an IUL and we want to add leverage. Well, with their IUL, it does not include the leverage piece. Okay, is it at least max funded? Is it option B? And what does that even mean? So it's taking a look at their current illustration and just understanding, where are we? Where are we currently? It's a little bit bigger. Where are we currently? And so I usually start with this. For the amount that you're contributing, how much life insurance is being purchased? Again, for the amount that you're contributing, how much life insurance is being purchased? When I say max funded, that's specifically what I am asking. When I ask, is your policy max funded? I'm asking, are we purchasing the least amount of life insurance legally possible for that dollar amount that you're contributing? $10,000 is a pretty significant amount. 175,000 in life insurance is fairly low. So just in looking at that equation and based off their age and their rating, 45 standard non-tobacco, based off the rating, the amount that they're putting in and the low amount of life insurance, my gut says this is a max funded policy. But how do you actually know? Well, the next item I like to check is, when do you break even? This is a standard question that I ask all. So if you have a cash value life insurance policy and you're wondering whether your life insurance policy is structured properly, what you should do is pull it out and ask yourself, when do you break even? What do I mean? Well, if I'm putting in $10,000 a year, when is $10,000 actually working for me? So if I put in 10,000 in year one, do I have $10,000 working for me at year one? Well, there are three buckets here: guaranteed, alternate, and non-guaranteed. And a lot of times, in most cases, the illustration you might see only includes a guaranteed and a non-guaranteed. Usually this one is not necessarily there. Well, from my perspective, we do nothing with these two buckets. Why? Well, guaranteed is saying, what if the market crashes every year? Well, realistically, that has never happened. So that is not I'll call it the numbers in that section doesn't necessarily exhibit actual. And then the alternate scale is, hey, what happens if the market crashes every other year? And again, that's not realistic either. This non-guaranteed section is usually as close to actual as possible. And it's illustrated at a specific rate. And usually that rate is less than whatever the performance is over time, the average performance over time. So it's illustrated at I'll call it a reasonable rate, and a rate as close to actual as possible. So in looking at the non-guaranteed section, going back to that original question that I asked, if I'm putting in $10,000 a year, from an accumulation perspective, do I have 10,000 working for me? So again, just to drill in a little bit, so this gets a little bit bigger. I put in 10,000 at year one. I've got 8911 working for me. So that means there's about 1,100 in fees. So if I put in 10,000, I've got 8911 working for me. I do not have $10,000 working for me at the end of year one. So I do not break even in year one. Okay. I put in another 10,000 at year two. That means 20 grand. So I've put in 20 grand total. I've got 18,360 working for me. So do I break even at year two? No. Okay, so we keep going down the line. At what point do I break even? Well, 10,000 times 5 is 50 grand. So what this illustration tells me is, at year 5, I break even. At year 5, I've put in 50,000, and at year 5, I've got 50,000 working for me inside of this policy. Why do I care about that? Well, this is a secure compound interest account. Secure is saying, hey, my money's protected. Compound interest is saying my money is making money, and the money that my money makes more money. So if I don't break even till year 5, then how does my money make more money for me if I'm just now breaking even at year 5? So it's important to know when you break even, so that can give you an idea as to how long it's going to take for your money to compound inside of a product like this. Here's what I know. And again, I've looked at hundreds of illustrations. What I know is if you've got an IUL that breaks even somewhere around years 5, 6, or 7, it's a pretty damn good design policy. So, from their perspective, after reviewing their illustration, I determined that this policy that they have is fairly well designed. Meaning, I put in $10,000 a year. By year 5, my policy breaks even. I think that's a really good policy. I've seen policies that didn't break even until year 15. So, from that perspective, if we were kind of again looking at the variables, is it max funded? Yes, meaning I'm purchasing the least amount of life insurance legally possible. So I'd say that's a check. Is it option B? What does option B mean? Option B is just simply saying, is the death benefit increasing as I continue to contribute to this policy? Well, the death benefit, meaning for the $10,000 that we're putting into this policy, we're buying about $175,000 in life insurance. Option B is saying, as I contribute this $10,000, my death benefit should be increasing. It should be increasing based off the cash value that I'm accumulating over time. Well, if I come over here and take a look at the death benefit, at the end of year 1, it increased. Into year 2, it's increased. So it's increasing every year. This tells me this is an option B policy. So it's max funded, it's option B. The last thing I like to check is, what about the fees? Because fee structure matters. What's the fee structure inside of your policy? Well, the first thing to know, if you have a properly structured life insurance policy with, I'll call it low fees, is one, do you even have an expense page? Because a lot of times you will get your illustration, but what will not be included in that illustration is an expense page. And in this case, they have an expense page. So when you come over to the expense page, the question you just want to ask yourself is, what are those fees and how are they structured? All cash value life insurance policies have the same fees, all of them. Now, whether or not you see it in your illustration is a question for the person that created it, but they all have the same fee structure. There's a premium charge, expense charge, and a cost of insurance. The premium charge is just saying this: as you put in a premium, the life insurance company takes a cut. Life insurance are capitalistic, meaning when you contribute funds to them, they're going to recoup any expense they spent on you, and this premium charge does that. There's also an expense charge. The expense charge is saying, hey, there's no upfront cost for going through underwriting or having your exam done or the maintenance inside your product. That maintenance, those expense charges are taken out of your premiums as you add them in on a monthly basis or annual basis, however you're contributing. The key piece here for an IUL is this expense charge a decreasing fee or an increasing fee? Because whether it's decreasing or increasing will tell you how impactful it will be to your ability to grow income inside of a product like this. So notice this expense charge. It started out as $454. At year 6, it drops down to $139. From year 11 on, it's about $60 a year for the rest of I think this is on Jane, for the rest of Jane's life. So my point is, this expense charge is decreasing, which means this is an efficient policy. This is a great policy. The cost of insurance, there's really not much we can do about that. As you get older, it costs more to insure you. And again, every life insurance policy, every properly designed cash value life insurance policy have the same fee structure. The piece that you want to look for is the expense charge increasing or decreasing? And in this case, it's decreasing. So all that being said, that to me says this is a pretty well-designed policy. It's max funded. It's option B, obvious in IUL, but the only thing missing here is there is no leverage. So the question that was asked was, why doesn't the $10,000 that I'm putting inside this policy function like some of the products that we share, like a secure compound interest account or an index universal life insurance policy with leverage? So what do I even mean when I say that, though? This is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about a leveraged IUL, I am referencing a product where you are contributing to it. And then at some point, the life insurance company comes along and adds additional dollars along with what you're contributing. And both of those dollar amounts are protected. Again, it's a secure compound interest account. Both of those dollar amounts are secure. There's growth on your dollars, somewhere around 6 to 8%. There's growth on the leverage dollars, somewhere around that same 6 to 8%. But you didn't borrow or you didn't leverage or you didn't use the life insurance company's money for free. So there's a cost. But that difference is a spread, is arbitrage. So the growth on the money you leverage plus the growth on your money becomes $2 amounts that's now working for you. Again, max funded, option B, IUL. This is the leverage piece. So what if we take this exact illustration, duplicate it, but add the leverage? And that's what we're doing today. We're just simply taking the same illustration that they have, the same structure that they have, and adding leverage to it. What does that look like? Hold on one moment. There we go. What does that look like? Well, the structure looks like this. And a couple things. These illustrations are, meaning there are rules around building illustrations for people. There's things that you can show and there's things that you can't show. Meaning the illustrated values that the money is being distributed around is an amount that the life insurance companies determines how much you can actually illustrate for. So this isn't something that I have, I'll call it carte blanche ability to dictate how the numbers grow inside of a product like this, meaning it's straightforward and it's the same across the board. So what does this look like? $10,000 is going in. It's the same 10,000 from their current IUL. But the difference is starting in year 3, there's leverage that kicks in. And notice that $10,000 is buying a life insurance policy for around $180,000, meaning the MEC limit is $10,000. That's the maximum you can put in for that $180,000 death benefit. But starting in year 3, we're going to add a certain amount of leverage. That leverage will cause us to have to increase that MEC limit. That leverage will cause us to have to increase the amount that we're putting inside the policy, which means that death benefit changes if we do that. So there's an action that has to happen here, and there's a requirement of you, the person that has the life insurance policy on them. There's an expectation of you in order for us to accomplish this goal. Meaning, in order to jump the policy, we have to move the MEC limit. In order to move the MEC limit, you might have to get another exam. You might have to get approved to have that MEC limit moved. So the assumption in this example today is there's no issue in having the MEC limit move when it needs to in order to add those dollar amounts or that leverage inside this policy. And I'm going to do one more thing. This says we're adding leverage in year 3, then another leveraged amount in year 5, 7, and 9. In most cases, I'd say this is pretty normal. But for most of us, we're not going to continue funding this policy forever. So even though you can jump the policy in perpetuity, I am going to stop at year 10. What do I mean? I'm saying we're going to jump this policy until year 10. And then at year 10, we're going to maintain this $50,000 a year for as long as they want to do it. So we are not going to jump this policy anymore. Because again, what's the objective here? The original objective was, hey, I've got an IUL. It doesn't function like what you talk about on your channel. If we take that same dollar amount, $10,000 a year, add leverage, can we get to the objective, which was bridging the gap between what they anticipate their current retirement income to be? And can we bridge that $50,000 gap around if something were to happen to him, there's a certain dollar amount lost. So can we bridge it? Like, meaning, can this process produce the income we need? That's the question. So what does this look like inside of an actual IUL? And this is a piece that I don't know that we've ever shared on this channel. If we're putting in at $10,000 a year, again, it's the same 10,000. Same 10,000 buying the same amount of life insurance, about 180,000. So same 10,000 buying the same amount of life insurance, same age, same rating. Again, it's a max funded option B IUL. But that leverage kicks in at year 3. So going back to the original questions around, hey, is this policy properly structured? What are those questions that we ask? Is it max funded? Are we purchasing the least amount of life insurance? Well, the answer to that question is yes. Is it option B? Is the death benefit increasing? Well, the death benefit is increasing. That is yes. When does it break even? Well, does it break even at year one? I put in 10,000. Here, I'll make it bigger. I put in 10,000. I do not have 10,000 working for me in the accumulation column. I put in 10. I do not have 10,000 working for me. It does not break even at year one. I put in another 10,000, 20,000. Do I break even at year two? It does not break even at year two. When do I break even? Well, I only put in 30,000. At year three, there's leverage being added, but as far as what I've contributed, I have only contributed 30,000 in 3 years. So my 30,000 has increased to almost 40,000 working for me. So when do I break even? In a leveraged IUL, in most cases, by the way, but in this leveraged IUL, my break even point is year three. In their original policy, the break even point was year five. So just in understanding where that break even point is tells me that this policy will grow more efficiently because I'm able to start producing compound interest sooner. Again, it's not magic, it's just simply math. So year three, I've put in 30,000, but also at year three, the 10,000 that I put in year one gets added as leverage at year three. Again, we're adding leverage starting at year three. Everything that was contributed in year one gets added at year three as leverage, which means it looks like I've put in $20,000 at year three. This DBI over here to the side says there's a death benefit increase. If $10,000 was initially buying me $175,000, if I'm needing to double that, that means my death benefit will probably end up needing to double as well. The only responsibility that I have as someone who's trying to qualify for this product is the life insurance company just wants to make sure that my rating hasn't changed. It was standard non-tobacco when I initially got the policy. If I need wanting to add $10,000 of leverage, as long as my death benefit, I'm sorry, as long as my rating is still a standard non-tobacco, I qualify. So again, it's not hard. It just means I may have to take an exam. The life insurance company just wants to confirm me as the asset has no roof leaks. So
You want to just explain why the death benefit increase is even a thing?
yeah,
Why can't you just put more money in?
yep. So death benefit in most cases, if you go to let's call it State Farm. If you go to State Farm and you get a life insurance policy, regular term policy for 175,000, 180,000, the death benefit is just the life insurance. Death benefit equals life insurance. Well, in a cash value life insurance policy, if it's structured correctly, as you're contributing to that policy, you have the ability to contribute to the policy and only receive the death benefit equaling the life insurance at the end. You have the ability to structure it that way. But what's the goal? The goal is to have a product that can produce income. The goal is to have a product that can continue to grow with me so that I can leverage and use the cash value to do infinite banking or whatever it is I want to do. Well, in order to do that, your death benefit, or you would want to be putting your money into a product that has cash value. And that cash value is what you're not then able to leverage and use as that additional income. So if you are not generating or building cash value, then that money that you're contributing into your policy is just going to the life insurance company. So again, if we want a vehicle that's going to work for us, if we're wanting a vehicle that can generate and produce income for us, then we want to structure it such that that death benefit includes two numbers, the cash value plus the life insurance. And so the increasing death benefit says, hey, as I contribute to this policy, the death benefit increases based off how much cash value is being generated inside this policy. So if it's designed properly and I'm building the maximum amount of cash value possible, then as my death benefit increases, I have access to all of that cash value plus the original life insurance that I purchased. So ultimately, bottom line or moral of the story is I want an increasing death benefit so that I can use or leverage that income year over year over year. Now, for those who understand life insurance, that also implies that the expenses can continue to increase inside this policy as well. And that's true. Because some will argue, I don't want my death benefit to continue increasing because that just means I'm going to pay more in life insurance. And that is true, but that's where structure matters. Because if you can outperform whatever that increase in life insurance would be, you now have more cash value that you can now leverage, use, and do whatever you want. Meaning, if you structure this properly with the least amount of fees, then the growth inside your policy will outpace or outperform whatever that increase in cost of insurance would be. And if you design it right, you would want the increasing death benefit for a certain number of years. And then as you get old enough or as you actually need those funds, you would want to then level out that death benefit to reduce that expense. But again, we can dig into that one later. That help?
Yep. Thank
Okay.
you.
So year 3, we put in 10. In year 4, we're going to put in that same 10. And again, notice how the accumulation value is continuing to grow over time. But then in year 5, we're going to add an additional 20,000. So my point is, we're just following the slide before, this one before, where we're contributing our 10,000, and then at certain points, we are adding leverage into our policy. And as we add that leverage, the growth continues to take off. But I want to highlight something. And again, this is another one of those documents that are pieces of the illustration that we've never shared. As we contribute this leverage into the policy and as those death benefits increase, and as I mentioned, I'm going to stop the death benefit increase at year 9 and just continue that forever. Well, what happens inside of the policy when we do this? You've got your dollar amounts that's working for you, but in addition, there's something happening with this loaned or leveraged dollar amount coming from the life insurance company. And here's a piece where I guess you can call this one a disclaimer. There's certain rules that I have to follow when it comes to illustrating the leverage inside of a policy. And those rules include, I cannot illustrate more than 0.5% over the loan, the interest rate for the loan. Meaning this loan dollar amount this leverage dollar amount that I'm pulling inside the policy, there's a cost to that. That cost is 5%. I am not allowed to illustrate this dollar amount for more than 0.5% over that interest rate. Why does that even matter? Why do you care? Well, I've got two dollar amounts working for me. I've got the money that I put in this policy and its growth, and then I've got this leverage dollar amount that I put into this policy and its growth. If you remember, let's see if I might have it somewhere close. Yep, here it is. So if you remember this picture here, I've got two dollar amounts working for me. I've got the dollar amount I contributed, and I've got this leverage dollar amount. These two dollar amounts is what I'm going to use to start generating wealth and generating income over time. So if I've got two dollar amounts working for me, I want to account for how those two dollar amounts function. And again, there's some limitations from an illustration perspective. Regardless of how much is actually growing inside of this policy, I cannot illustrate this dollar amount for more than 0.5% above the loan interest rate. Let me explain what I mean. I want you to take a look at this section. So notice I put in 10,000. That 10,000 grew some dollar amount, and then in year 3, I added an additional 10,000. So I put in a total of 10,000 of my money plus 20,000 in total of the leveraged dollar amount. And that dollar amount grew a certain number. So I want to explain how this growth happens. So for that, come down here. So this is just a snapshot of that piece. Let me get here. So notice, I put in 10,000 of leverage at year 3. That 10,000, I cannot illustrate for more than 0.5% above the cost of the leveraged amount, meaning 5%. And in this situation, I didn't even do that. I just kept it at 5%, meaning the maximum I can illustrate the growth inside of this illustration is 5%. So I put in 10,000, and that 10,000 made 5%. 5% equates to $500. So what ends up happening in year 3, I put in 10,000, it grew 500. So the leverage dollar amount that I put in became 10,500. And then I took that same dollar amount and added in on top of the dollar amount that have in year 3, then I added another 10,000 of leverage at year 4. So at year 4, what happened? Well, the 10,000 that I added at year 4 picked up another 10,000 plus its growth. What was its growth? It was $500. So in essence, year 4 became 10,000 plus 10,500, which is the amount that's working for me inside of this policy. So then what happens at year 5? Well, at year 5, I'm going to add not just 10,000, 20,000 of leverage. So what happens is my original 10,500 that was working for me makes another 5%, which equates to 1,025. And then this leverage dollar amount that I've added again in year 5, plus the performance of year 3's dollar amount equates to 41,525. My point in sharing this is this. I know the growth on this dollar amount is actually better than 5%, but I legally cannot illustrate anything above that. So because I can't legally illustrate above that, I just want you to understand how the money grows inside of this product. I have limitations as to what I can show. So what's the moral of the story here?
We have a question.
Go for it.
Okay, Antonio says, Rodriguez, you know who he is, says, for me, my biggest hangup is the leverage. Why wouldn't the cost of multiple leverage positions just compound over time and the cost of insurance implode the policy? What if we need to access it?
Right, and that's where it all starts at the beginning. How it's structured matters. Because I think on the surface, you're correct. Why wouldn't the expenses cause the policy to implode? Why wouldn't it? Well, if it's structured such that those expenses inside the policy are also compounding, then you would be absolutely correct. But as I showed you, a properly structured life insurance policy, a properly structured index universal life insurance policy specifically, not you, I have the ability to structure it such that those fees are decreasing. So the best thing you can do is go to that expense page and see, are the fees decreasing? Because if they are, then I have one job. My job is to outperform the expenses. If the total percentage of the cost inside of a policy, let's say it's 5%. But if I can show you where you're making 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, meaning again, there's 5% worth of expenses in your policy, but your policy is making 10%. There's a positive spread, which means the growth is outperforming the fees. As long as the growth is outperforming the fees, this is a moot point. But how do you guarantee that? Well, guarantee is a strong word. What I can say is it's about the structure. If we can structure it at the beginning so that it's growing with the least amount of fees, while I can't guarantee you what's going to happen in the future, because I've structured it such that the fees are the lowest to begin with and the fees are decreasing over time as years progress, the fees are getting smaller, which means now my only responsibility at this point is to make sure that positive spread is happening. And what does the data say? The data over time says the likelihood of this policy performing positively for the duration is pretty high. Now, again, while I can't guarantee it, but I can show you at least 100 years of data that says we're in pretty good hands.
Okay, we have one more from Kenneth.
Sure.
Kenneth Rogers Jr. Hello, by the way. Welcome back. It's been a while. He says, when you ask for more insurance, will your premium go up, or can you pay some premium? Because I know, can you pay some premium? Because I know the older you get, the more life insurance costs.
Right. So let's take year 3, for example. So we've been putting in $10,000 a year. So 10,000 year 1, 10,000 year 2. If we are now going to the life insurance company and saying, hey, I want to now put in not just 10,000 of my money, I am now borrowing 10,000, which means there's a total of $20,000 going in. So, which means My MEC limit was 10,000 for 180,000, but I'm now doubling that, which means I'm literally requesting double the amount of life insurance. So instead of it being 180 times 2 is 360. So in essence, I'm requesting um, a MEC limit based off 380,000 in life insurance. Cost of insurance is based off age, rating, and health. So based off those three factors, that implies that the cost of insurance is going to increase. You're absolutely correct. The cost of insurance is going to increase. The key piece here, though, is that increase in cost of insurance and that level amount in expenses, those two or those $3 amounts added together, premium charge, expense charge, cost of insurance, those three pieces added together, is that less than the growth inside the policy based off adding an additional 10,000 of leverage? So you're right. As we add more premium, expenses are going to increase. That's not the question. The question is, can we beat it? Can the growth inside the policy beat that? If the answer is yes, then to me, it almost doesn't even matter what the expenses are because my growth will outperform. So therefore, I will end up with more money at the end anyway. And just so we're clear, these numbers are inclusive of the expenses. These numbers are inclusive of the cost of insurance, the premium charge, and the expense charge. So these are not this accumulation number or this accumulation value isn't, hey, and then the expenses come out later. Meaning there's an increase in expenses based off the leverage. We're not accounting for it. That's not true. All of the expenses are accounted for in this number. The question is, can we beat what that expense number is? A lot of words.
Yeah. Sequoia says, is there a difference between paying monthly versus paying a lump sum?
Man, and so I was going to mention this, but I've been so far in the weeds that I didn't. So let me show you something real quick. And thank you, Sequoia, for the setup. Let's see. Now let me go here. Sorry, I got to go back. So this is the original policy. Notice the original policy states monthly premium $833 a month. I'm sorry, $833.33. So the original policy, their original policy is monthly $833 a month. At $833 a month is buying $175, $113 in life insurance. So their original policy is set up based off putting in monthly amount of $833 a month, which equates to like $9,999.99, roughly $10,000 a year. So that's the original policy. I intentionally built this policy, this leverage policy, using $10,000 as an annual premium to show that there is a slight difference, but long term, it means nothing. What do I mean? Well, when you're putting in monthly $833 a month, the way the call option works inside of an IUL is it's a year-to-year, point-to-point. So there's an opportunity to get dollar cost averaging throughout the year because you're putting in $833 a month. What do I mean? Well, 833 in month one, that call option is based off $833 after that full year. But when I put in $833 times two, that's a larger dollar amount that I'm doing a call option on. So there's dollar cost averaging that happens inside the policy, which means the growth is actually better for policies that have monthly premiums. But when you add an annual premium, you get the dollar cost averaging, the full dollar cost averaging, not dollar, that's the wrong word. You get the full growth on that annual premium in that month that you did it. But all of the months after that, it's a smaller amount because the bulk of your contribution happened in that 1 month. So there's still growth that happens throughout the year, but it's not as much growth as it would have been as it relates to dollar cost averaging. But in the long run, it does not even matter. So that's why I intentionally did this. So you're right. Is there a difference between putting in a monthly versus an annual? Yes, there's an increase in there's an incremental increase in growth based off dollar cost averaging. But in the long run, when we're talking about income over time at retirement or in 20 years, mathematically, it makes no difference. So in this case, again, we're putting in 10,000 annually, And if you could just go back to month one, or I'm sorry, year one, I put in 10,000, the accumulation value is 94.31 for an annual amount. And for that monthly amount in month one, not month one, year one, I put in 10,000, that accumulation value is 89.11. So we're talking about there's a difference between those two. But when you come down here at the end, 337,689 compared to the leverage of, the leverage dollar amount plus what you've contributed, it's 1.2 million in accumulation value compared to 349 in surrender value on the $10,000 that you've contributed. So I said a lot. What does that mean? Ultimately, mathematically, these numbers are, I'll call it, very close to the same. There's maybe a few $1,000s difference, but when we're talking income, those dollars that does not necessarily make a difference. So I'd say it's really more preference. If you were asking me which one is better, I take the dollar cost averaging because depending on what's happening in the stock market, you can actually, if the stock market is doing, if there's a lot of volatility, dollar cost averaging can work in your favor. If the market is fairly flat, then the dollar cost averaging, the one-time lump sum can actually do better for you. So it just kind of depends. And I'm not one who tries to predict the market or predict what's going to happen in the market. So I think it's more preference. What's more available to you? Are you able to do monthly or are you able to do annually? Which one is actually more beneficial for you? And if you're asking about me personally, we do annual dollar amounts. So
Well,
all
do
right.
you want to tell them why though? Because I think for some people they're trying to make this decision on what they should do, but I think it depends on how your machine is built up too. Like we reference our financial safety net, right? Our wealth building machine. We reference it as a machine. So all the pieces that connect together, this is just one of those for our machine, but it's connected to something else, which influences why we pay the way that we do. You want to
Yeah,
just explain
well,
that part?
so for everyone is different. The reason ours is structured this way, meaning the reason we are putting in annual dollar amounts into our machine, is because of what we use to contribute to our machine. We leverage a first position home equity line of credit to be able to make contributions. And because my income fluctuates throughout the year, and because the performance inside of that home equity line of credit fluctuates throughout the year, I like making one time lump sum payments and then spending the year using velocity banking to pay it back down. So it's all about your goal. It's all about the strategies that you're using to be able to contribute to your SKIA. And again, we are all different. So I think the best thing to do would be to get on a call so that we can kind of talk through your specific, I'll call it, situation to identify what would be best for you. Because again, it's not a one size fits all. It really kind of more depends upon where this dollar amount is coming from that you're looking to contribute into your policy. And if we're talking about John and Jane, they had already set aside this $10,000, this $833 a month to contribute. So again, I intentionally built this as an annual amount, but the moral of the story is they had already set aside this $833 a month. They were already contributing into an IUL. So the question was, what would this same $10,000 do inside of a leveraged IUL? So we covered that. So what is the moral of the story here? Because I've covered a lot. The moral of the story is this. Let me see if I can get this all into the screen. The moral of the story is this. Income. How much income is one compared to the other? How much income is generated based off a leveraged IUL compared to the same IUL with no leverage? And where does that income come from? So for that, you have to look at the surrender value column. For some life insurance company, the surrender value column is also called the cash value column. So surrender value column, surrender value column. And if you remember, the time
Okay.
horizon was,
Can they see? Can you make it a little bigger for them?
I will.
Okay.
The time horizon is 20 years. So what is that income amount at age 65? And so again, we're talking about the surrender value column and how much income is generated at year 65. And how do we generate, or how do we determine what that income would be? So in looking at the surrender value column, this dollar amount is 337,689. That's how much cash value is available. So how much income is possible out of that 337,000 at year 25? And again, remember, this is a under promise to over deliver. I can only illustrate for so much, or based off so much. This illustration is being based is well, I'm sorry, the interest rate illustrated is 6.3%. The average, just the average, is 6.87. So I know I am under promising to over deliver, but that's not the point. The point is, regardless, if I have 337,000 in cash value, how much income is that?
But
Well,
this is also their original. This is their illustration that they brought,
absolutely.
right? So this isn't your numbers or anything that you're doing to influence this. This is what they had started with already.
Right. All I'm saying is illustrations have their limitations. Meaning I can't illustrate an interest rate higher than what the life insurance company allows. And in this case, it's 6.3%. And it's the same 6.3% in their illustration that was provided to me. And it's the same 6.3% in the leverage one that I'm creating. All I'm saying is I know the growth is greater, is better, is more, but there are limitations. And so that limitation is it's illustrated at a certain dollar amount. And even based off that illustration, meaning this is the worst case scenario, not the best case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. Based off the 337,000 that they have in cash value, if we were to take about 7% in income off that, it equates to about 23,638. So this is that 25,000, 24,000 in income that they were referencing. There's a gap. Yes, there is a gap because based off the cash value at year 65 inside of their IUL, the max in income is somewhere around $24,000. So all I did was prove what they already knew. There's a gap. Yep, there sure is. Well, what would happen inside of a leveraged IUL? How is that any different? Well, looking inside that leveraged IUL, there are actually two numbers that you have to pay attention to. There's your surrender value and whatever that dollar amount is, and the available income that you're able to take off that. But there's also this leverage dollar amount. Remember, there's a spread being created. So I grab income off this spread, and I grab income based off the amount that I'm contributing. So what are those amounts? It's about 350,000 in cash value, multiplied by that same 7%. We're talking about 24.5. So notice it's right around the same 24 grand. So whether we're talking about when we're talking about an IUL and properly structured IUL, they both function around the same, which means they are both designed effectively. The difference between the two is this leverage dollar amount. So if you look at this loan balance, this leverage balance, it's about 873,000. If it costs 4 to 5% to leverage this dollar amount, again, if it costs 4 to 5% to leverage this dollar amount, but this dollar amount is making on average 7 to 10%, there's a spread, there's a positive spread. So the amount of income that I can take off this leverage dollar amount will be somewhere around 1 to 5%. I'm just using the average of 3. So if you were to take income off this total, 873 of around 3%, it equates to about 26 grand. So you add these two numbers together. This is that approximate amount of income that you would be able to take out of a vehicle like this, totaling 50 grand. So again, if we would compare the two, which is better, 50,000 or 24,000? I think that's an obvious answer. But I want to highlight something, and I've been saying this throughout. There are limitations to both of these, both the regular IUL and the leveraged IUL. There are limitations as to what you can show. I cannot illustrate this leveraged dollar amount. I can't illustrate it more than 0.5% above the loan rate. But what's the actual? What is the actual performance? Well, I've got it. This is what it would actually look like. This is what it's actually looked like over the last, what was that, 25 years? Again, I'll zoom in, but my point is the growth inside of the S&P 500 has been on average somewhere around 6.87%. If you average this column together, it's about 6.87. And then there's the leverage dollar amount that's growing at the same, but you have to subtract the loan amount. So what I am saying is, if you were to take a look at the average performance over time, the amount that you would be able to take in income is actually closer to 10% on your dollar amount. And once you subtract the loan amount, more like 5% on the leverage dollar amount. So if we, I'll call it, identify or share more actual, close to actual numbers, this income looks more like 78,000. And again, using the same approach on their IUL. If it's more like 10%, it's probably more realistic around that age 65. So it's still a larger dollar amount, 33 grand. But still, I still ask the same question though, which is better, an IUL with leverage or an IUL without? And again, it's not magic. It's just simply math. So the moral of the story, what would a leveraged IUL look like if you were to contribute the same 10,000 that they are currently contributing inside of their current IUL? What would it look like? Well, if it's a max funded option B IUL with leverage, we're talking about somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000 a year over 20 years, compared to a regular IUL that can be max funded. It can be option B, but you do not have leverage. You're limited into the amount of income. So again, it's all about structure. It's all about design. It's all about who you get it from. And just so we're clear, the fee structure that I walked through in this illustration, not every life insurance company provides IULs with the lowest amount of fees. So it's very important as to where you get these types of products from. But at the end of the day, which is better? One versus the other. All right.
And this is that smarter, not harder that I was talking about in the beginning of the stream, because what they were realizing was they would still have to find money to bridge the gap in her income if there was something that happened to him. Now,
Yes.
this isn't do it if and when something would happen to him. It's do something now so that if something were to happen to him and all of her survivorship benefits dwindle away, which is crazy to me to think of the American dream, right? And all of the systems that are in place to support this dream, to know that if one person, we're still in a position where even if the married couple, this is like a trend right now, the traditional housewife is coming back into trend, and they have no idea what this could mean for them if their benefits go away or their kids, right? Like they have no idea. We've already seen generations of women who have come to understand what this means. But these new ones, this new breed, they tend to know everything because they're on TikTok. So the point is, though, that this couple had realized we have a problem, and this was never brought to our attention before. But in the event that something were to happen to me, she would lose 75% of the benefits and the income that we had worked hard together to have the assurance that everything would be okay in the event that we couldn't work. That's not okay, especially when you have spent years or decades putting into a system to ensure that you do get it back. This could be Social Security. There's a lot of different types of benefits. It's not just military. So there are other systems like this. There are government programs that aren't military, right? If you have a government or a state job. There's just Social Security in general. Did you know that if your spouse is married to you, your first spouse, let's say you've been married a couple times, your first spouse. No, this is the same for the survivorship.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you
plan.
now. I'm with you now.
Okay, but listen up. If you don't know this, you need to know this. If you sign up for Social Security benefits, you're putting into the system, you're married. You're married for this person, I think it's like 16 years or something like that, 12 or 16 years. Then you get remarried. That initial spouse can come and claim if you aren't here anymore to get your benefits. That first spouse can have claim on your Social Security benefits. Same thing for survivorship benefit programs, which is why some people don't elect into them until they have retired which could mean 45. Some people get remarried after 45. So
Right.
there's so much red tape. We're not experts at survivorship benefit programs. That's not the point of this stream. The point is that there are people out there who are the ones who you go to handle all the paperwork with. They still would not understand what would happen to you. Their job is just to fill out the paperwork and get you enrolled in the plan. It is not until something happens to you, then you're not even here to be like, my bad, to your second wife or your third wife or whoever, right? You're not there to say my bad. I had no idea that how I set things up, this is what the reality would be like for you. It could just be your one and only. It could be your one and only, your ride or die, and you get to the end and they, male or female, doesn't matter, right? They realize then that whatever it was that they were trusting that you knew about these benefits, they were supporting you. The benefits were better. So yes, let's take the money and let's put it into these systems so that we have a retirement. There's a lot of families who do things like that. And this couple realized that's not okay. That's not enough. And it's a good thing that we figured this out now. However, what they were doing was they had the $10,000 going into their IUL and they were going, well, hey, we still have a $25,000 gap. We have to fill that still. So we're out here on YouTube, we're out here in the interwebs looking for passive income opportunities and what those opportunities might look like to invest in, because there are many ways to 10. We still have a gap to bridge. Now they can do it with that same $10,000. So imagine if they had more income, if they had more cash flow that they could put towards better systems and building a better machine. Imagine what they could be doing. Because what we didn't talk about here was, is their mortgage paid off? We didn't talk about here is where else do they have leverage to be able to supercharge their machine? A lot of people aren't even on that hasn't even hit their radar yet because they are just now waking up to the income crisis that's coming, right? So they have no idea about leverage. We're scared because leverage sounds like debt and we can't see it in any other way. And so just steer clear. Don't even want to learn about it. Don't want to talk about it. Yet, this is how all of these corporations are swallowing up cities whole, buying up all this real estate because they have leverage. Pay attention. We have to pay attention. We have to be shouting this from the rooftops, the mountaintops. Shout it from your patio. Who cares? We have to be out here spreading the word to help other people understand that they have to wake up or it's going to be too late. And by the time they do, they're going to say, I had this leverage the whole time. I could have been doing this the whole time. My kids can't afford to buy a house. My grandkids would never be able to afford a house if we didn't do things today to put them in that position. We have to look forward and we have to understand and be able to better assess what it is that we have. Okay, I'm going to stop there. But the point is, we've got work to do. And we've been doing a lot of that in educating on the systems, peeling back the layers on these concepts right here on this channel. So if you're new here, please subscribe, go back into the live streams. The videos might not be as helpful because we are very rich in live streams. So there's well over 100 that are just as informative of this, if not more. And you will not be without the tea in every single one on strategy to help you level up. Okay.
Here's the thing for me. I know this is, I'll call it heavy with military survivor benefits and how this particular couple is impacted. But what about my small business owners and my entrepreneurs who because I'm included, we don't have a pension. We don't have survivor benefit programs, right? So it's how many of us out here who are just looking to be able to build or start a pension are
Right.
buying IULs like this one that is properly structured. It's doing the right things, but it's falling short of what it is we really need. And we have the same pressures. We have the same heavy weight that we're carrying around. If something were to happen to me, I've got this HVAC business. I'm self-employed. My wife actually runs the phones, and I am the only one that, as long as I'm out here doing my job in my small business, we eat. The business is thriving. We make decent income. But if something happens to me and I am unable to go out here and take care of these HVAC systems, what happens? Where's my survivorship program? And hey, I got this life insurance policy that I was told was structured properly. I was going to be able to do what it was supposed to do, but all I was missing was leverage. Like you add this one factor, and my income doubles, and in some
Yeah.
cases maybe triples. Like it makes me angry, I guess, is the point, because these are opportunities where you're right. If we don't wake up, if we don't stumble across a channel like this to just identify that maybe there's a better way, that you know what, all you have to do is take the same approach, but it just happens to be a vehicle that offers leverage versus one that does not.
Yeah, and it really is being able to identify your leverage. But you're absolutely right. The concept of survivor benefits systems are to ensure income is coming in. That's really what it is. It doesn't matter what the title is. It's income insurance. And why
Right.
aren't we
That's it.
why don't we have that? We insure everything else. So why are we not putting a system in place or talking about it or putting it at the top of the list so that we have something like that? But you're absolutely right. If you want to talk about the lack of coverage for what if, just in case, and especially provisions for the future, entrepreneurs are completely on their own. Completely on their own. They're not getting company match,
Right.
right? They're not getting access to extra types of pension systems or things like that. We are all completely on our own. And so if we are not putting and most entrepreneurs, because of that, they just assume that they have to save money, right? They just assume that it means you don't need a system, you need to make more money. And so put the money back into your business.
That's the part. Because we as entrepreneurs think the business is that nest egg. The business is that survivorship piece. So I'm going to put 100% of what it is I make back into my business, because the larger I make my business, the more my family will be taken care of. Missing the part where, but what if this business isn't there?
Yeah.
So you're absolutely correct. So it's what percentage of the revenue for my business should I be putting to the side so that it could be placed into a vehicle that will generate income, God forbid something were to happen.
Yep. And if you want to continue that conversation about what can entrepreneurs do to put themselves in a position to create a strong financial safety net, that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So this coming week, through the week, we'll have a video that comes out, and then next week live stream we'll be peeling that back and having live Q&A about it. So that's what we'll do. We have a couple more questions. Do you mind if we go into them?
do it.
Okay. Antonia says, when do we pay back the leverage? I didn't know if you wanted to still use the board or not.
Yes, let's use the board.
Okay.
So when do we pay back the leverage? I love that question. Where do I want to show it? Let's go here. Okay. No, I don't want it. Yeah, yes, I do. All right. When do we pay back the leverage? We paying back the leverage assumes that you physically have the leverage. So let's talk through that a little bit. And for that, I want to come over here. As I mentioned, there are $2 amounts working for you inside of a product like this. There's the dollar amount that you've contributed, and then there's the dollar amount that the life insurance company has added on your behalf that's also working for you. This dollar amount, meaning the total, is protected by the 0% floor. What does that mean? That means that there is a contractual guarantee, not from me, not from my wife, but from the life insurance company. There is a contractual guarantee that says the money you've contributed, plus the amount that you've borrowed, plus the leverage, plus the match, plus the index loan, plus the participating loan. It has many different words, but the bottom line is the dollar amount you've contributed plus the dollar amount that's been added on your behalf as leverage is sitting in the general fund. The general fund is where this 0% floor lives. So because it's sitting in the general fund, there's a contractual guarantee that says this leveraged dollar amount cannot be lost. So who pays back the leverage? Well, you physically don't have the leverage. Why? This leveraged dollar amount is not in your pocket. You cannot reach into your checking account and access this leverage. So if you don't have it and it's sitting in the general fund, protected by a 0% floor, how do you pay back something you don't have? You don't. The leverage is being used. There's a spread being created, meaning you are leveraging this borrowed dollar amount, but you're not physically using it. You do not have this dollar amount in your hand, which means you don't owe the principal. The money you borrowed, that $10,000 that was borrowed, was placed into the general fund. You physically do not have it. So you cannot owe something you don't have. But there is a cost. There's a cost to doing business. That cost to doing business is somewhere around 4 to 5%. Meaning you borrowed this 10,000, it's sitting in the general fund. You don't owe this 10,000, but you did borrow it. There's a cost to that borrow. The cost to borrow is 4 to 5%. If the growth on that 10,000 that I borrowed is 7 to 10%, and it cost me 4 to 5, again, made 7 to 10, cost 4 to 5. Let's cut it. I made 7, cost 5. Made 7, cost 5. There's a spread of 2, meaning when I make that 7% and I pay back to the life insurance company the 5% that I owe, I keep the 2, which means in that year, the 10,000 I borrowed plus the 5% that was paid back on that dollar amount that I borrowed, this dollar amount, this leveraged dollar amount, has been satisfied. It's what's called self-collateralized, meaning I don't owe $10,000. I don't owe interest because the growth paid for the interest. So who pays it back? Or when is it paid back? It's not. If God forbid something happened to me in this moment, the life insurance company would just simply take back the money that I leveraged inside the general fund. I don't owe it back. My beneficiary who thought they were going to get X amount of hundreds of thousands or X amount of millions of dollars in death benefit, it's not a situation where the life insurance company is going to come along and take back that leveraged dollar amount, so which means it reduces the amount coming to your beneficiaries. No, you physically do not have this dollar amount. The life insurance company already has it, so there's nothing to pay back. What you do owe is the interest, and the interest is paid as the growth happens. And I know what's coming after this, but what happens if we don't get the growth?
No, that's not the question.
I know.
But
It'll
if
come.
you want to know,
It'll come.
want to know a deeper dive into this, like a full walkthrough on this process, especially how the money's borrowed, where it goes, what the bucket, the general fund that he was talking about, look for the thumbnail here on our channel that has the buckets on it. That's the one that will walk through this whole process. This is what I wanted to say.
She was afraid that I was about to walk through that
Man,
process.
we are
And I
not
was
going to do that on this live stream. Okay, the reason why it's easy to ask a question like this, though, is because when Antonio's right to ask this question, it's
absolutely.
very confusing when you see other videos or other people out here talking about IBC, infinite banking, right? You hear people talking about using whole life policy, you're borrowing from it, and so you do owe it back. So it just gets if you don't pay it back, it gets taken out of your death benefit, right? So your beneficiaries would be impacted. That's where it is really confusing, and where other people who are of a certain financial religion, we'll call it a financial religion. Those members don't understand something like this, nor do they want to take the time to understand it, because they've already assigned a meaning to it, which is just ignorant, right? They've already assigned how this works without even knowing how it works. Therefore, they're out there informing people or misinforming people of their interpretation of how it works when they could just learn why this is different. We need new solutions.
That's it.
And I don't know why there's so many people out here who are pushing against, as if new solutions can't work. Well, we can all agree that we need solutions. We cannot continue on with the same retirement solutions and retirement plans and retirement options that people who thought meat and jello were fancy should be served at meals with friends and put in magazines. Like the IRA and the 401k are from that era. And they have many of the same rules. But the people who first elected into there was a reason why it was created, and it wasn't for the people. That's not who it was for. The people who won out of that program, they have already won and gone. And matter of fact, a lot of them, let me just quit pointing at people. Matter of fact, I'm going to point with all of the fingers, okay? Matter of
Fellow
fact,
Americans.
a lot of the majority of people who are currently, they opted in the 80s, right? Back when in the late 70s, back when you could buy a house for like, a couple hamburgers. Now they're retired and they're having to go back to work because they didn't have enough. Because who saw inflation coming like this for anybody? Nobody. Nobody saw it. Not a single person. They had no idea what real estate was going to do. Downsize was part of their plan. They did not realize, though, that the house that they were selling and the house that they were buying sometimes could be the same amount. They had to relocate and downsize away from their families, and that the average cost of assisted living would be $8,000 to $10,000 a month. What? That was not in their plan. That wasn't in their plan. So the financial religions that still exist are just very popular opinions about options that we currently have. And we know for a fact that we need new solutions. So if everybody got on board and they started to understand things and pick things apart to say, we need better solutions, we want better options, and we want to be able to have access to them, and to make the decision that we have access to them. We don't want our jobs to tell us that whether or not we can have access to it. We want to have full control over our future. Like, forget having to belong to a corporation just to feel like you have a strong financial future. If this is the American dream and you should be able to start your own, is free enterprise, you should be able to start your own business. And we are living in a capitalistic society, not a socialistic. It's capitalism versus socialism, where you get the option to trade value, right? You get the option. That's the beauty of it all. You get the options. That's what it's supposed to be. But it's not looking like that, right? It's called that, but it's not looking like that. And a lot of people are out here confusing the mess out of others because they just don't want to do the math.
I think you bring up a great point around out here confusing others, because you have to pay attention. Like, I, I hope we do a good job of being very clear as to the words that we're using and why we use these specific words. Meaning, a leveraged IUL. I'm using leveraged IUL intentionally. People who don't like what it is I'm walking through will say words like hyperfunding and IUL. And hyperfunding is actually a derogatory word in the life insurance space, meaning it is illegal to hyperfund a policy. But people who don't like this strategy will intentionally use words like this to confuse people. So you're very, very right. How, who, where, how it's structured, where it's coming from. Like, you really just have to peel the layers back on a lot of what people are discussing as it relates to retirement vehicles.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had that pushback, and even I had that pushback when you first came home and you were like, "Hey, we're going to do this. We're going to
thing.
build wealth in like 5 years. We're going to be completely set and okay." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, guy. Well, I guess you're going to do it regardless of how I feel about it." And he was just like, "Trust me, it's going to be good." And I'm like, "No, this does not sound like a trust me situation." Because I was struggling with how I felt about some of these vehicles, the concept of leverage and borrowing money, right? I was like, why would we do that? Why would we get farther in debt, even higher interest rates? I was like, this sounds off the top crazy. And we get it in the comments all the time. Like, just from jump, I'm out because this sounds insane. But let me tell you, what if I told you that the same people who were saying that it was insane, the same people who won't, still to this day, they won't even watch a full video because of how it's making them feel. how the math's making them feel. We can show you right now that we paid our home off in less than 5 years. Less than 5 years. Anybody? Bueller? Like anybody? Are you still there? And on top of that, we became our own bank. So we financed all of our kids' cars in the same time frame. We financed our kids' cars. And so when he's talking about we'll use our first position HELOC to fund our premium every year on an annual basis, it's because why would we have it sit? It could be sitting here, it could be sitting here, but how the money moves around, like the balance on the house is zero. So when we take the money out, now we got the 50 grand for premium, pay it right back off. Boom, same thing. It's different, but it works. And I know that a lot of people will struggle with this math, and they will struggle with the way that it's making them feel before they will struggle with how to even calculate it. That's the truth. But it's real. And I wouldn't have believed it either. I am so grateful to have access to different information. I'm so grateful that my husband found access to this information. I was one of those spouses when we talk about get your spouse on board. I was not on board. But I'm going to tell you right now, looking at our future, looking at our kids' future, looking at our grandkids' future, I am on board. Like you can't get me off board. And what our hope is that we can help others see the same thing. And it's just difficult though, because everybody has their own circles. And when you're out there talking to other people and you're like, hey, what do you think about this thing? And there's somebody else who just wants to have an opinion, and an educated opinion, but they have an opinion and that opinion holds weight. You have no idea what they do or don't know. Just learn for yourself. That's all I can say is learn for yourself. We are here to, our mission is to help people become self-directed. The whole point of that is so that you're in control. You're the one who's learning. You're not having to wager your future on the opinions of others. It's because you will know how to do the math. You will feel confident in making those decisions. And that is a good feeling, my friend. We have more questions. Okay. Veronica says, when you want to add more insurance, does the cost keep going down or do you start from the beginning again? Oh, at the death benefit increase, I think is what she's talking about.
So one of the cool parts about, I'll call it the death benefit increase, is you're not having to start a brand new policy. You're building within the same. And so there is an increase in the cost of insurance. But I go back. As long as it's structured properly from the perspective of it's a decreasing fee structure, that increase in cost of insurance minus the decrease in expense, that spread, that total dollar amount, as long as that's less than what's happening from a growth perspective inside your policy, as long as you're on the, again, it has to be positive performing. And again, as long as that spread remains positive, that compound interest that you're generating over time will outpace, outperform, outproduce whatever that cost would be. So does it increase in if I'm asking for more life insurance and I'm older, there will be an increase in the cost of insurance. Because again, it's just mathematically that's the way that would work. If 10,000 at age 45 cost me $350 a month, 20,000 at age 48 is probably going to cost me a little bit more.
This is funny. I don't know who this is, but they've obviously been here before. Compounding Incorporated. Okay, paid off. What happened to being petty? $36.95 for 30 years. And you are very right, my friend.
And see, and
we did say we would never pay it off.
Yeah, I'll just be listening to my wife because you have not heard me say that.
Well, to me, it's paid off though. Can we agree that if you owe $100 or $1,000 on your mortgage, that it's paid off? Doesn't that count?
So
it's paid off.
Paid off to me says there's not an invoice coming to the house. There's an invoice coming to the house. It might be an invoice for $100, but there's an invoice. There's a monthly invoice coming to the house, and if I didn't pay it, the bank will take the home.
Yeah. Well, we're going to agree to disagree on this because put it in the chat, in the comments. Do you think that if you only owe $1,000 on your home that had a 30-year mortgage
It's
under 5 years, that you can consider it paid off?
Here's the thing about our first position home equity line of credit. It says this is the interest rate or $100. So I can't get the payment less than $100 because they from their perspective they need to get something. Because you're right, it probably would be something like $15.85 or something like that.
Yeah.
But I have to pay at least that minimum.
Yeah. But the good news is
But
we
I
can
am
just,
petty.
yeah. And that's okay. Okay. I'm petty all the time. P E to the T T Y. All right. Antonia says, I may have missed it. Why after year 3 it doubled from the original premium of 10K? Is there a leverage point every year after year 3? Sorry if I missed it.
No, great question.
You want to
Where
show?
did I show that? I'm trying to think if I do.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do.
Hold
You're
on.
feeling like showing it right now.
Okay. I'll go here. Yep, right here. So a couple things. When you start a policy like this, you can't just automatically start adding leverage. Why? Because you haven't generated enough room inside the policy for that leverage to even go. Meaning, if I'm putting in $10,000 a year, at the end of year 1, there's no space available. Because what am I leveraging? What am I leveraging at year 3? The life insurance company just didn't randomly choose $10,000 for me to be able to be added to my added into the policy as leverage. So where did that 10,000 comes from? It came from everything that I put in year 1. Here's the expectation: you're contributing in year 1, you're contributing in year 2. At year 3, the life insurance company says this: congratulations, because you've consecutively contributed to your policy in year 1 and year 2. We will allow you to leverage, we will allow you to borrow everything from year 1 and add that to year 3 as brand new principal. So, in order for you to be able to leverage this 10,000, you would have had to have contributed consecutively to your policy in year 1 and year 2. That's the I'll call it the agreement that we have with the life insurance company. So again, let me restate it. You contributed 10,000 in year 1, 10,000 in year 2. At year 3, the life insurance company says, congratulations. Now you can take everything that you've contributed in year 1 and add it as brand new principal at year 3. Well, notice at year 3, I add the leverage. At year 4, I add the same leverage from year 1. It's the same, meaning I added it again. But what happens at year 5? What was the original expectation? The life insurance expectation was you contributed consecutively year 1, year 2. Well, at year 5, what did I just do? I just contributed consecutively from year 3, year 4. I just contributed consecutively for an additional 2 years. So I just met the obligation again. So because I've met the obligation again, the life insurance company says, well, the original idea was because you contributed consecutively year 1 and year 2, you can take everything from year 1, add it to year 3. At year 5, because you've now contributed consecutively year 3 and year 4, 2 consecutive years, not only can you leverage year 1, but you can also leverage year 2. All that happened here is I met the obligation twice. So now I get to leverage double the amount. Well, what happened at year 7? Well, because I contributed consecutively year 5 and year 6, I just met that same obligation again. So now instead of contributing not just year 1 at year 7, not just year 2 at year 7, now I can also add year 3 at year 7. And it goes on in perpetuity, infinitely. Meaning if I can qualify for it, this leverage can continue until I hit max insurability. We can get into what max insurability is. But my point is, this leverage comes from the agreement that was made. Hey, contribute consecutively year 1 and year 2. I can add that at year 3. Because I contributed consecutively year 3 and year 4, I can now not just borrow everything from year 1, but I can also borrow everything from year 1 and year 2. And it just continues on from there. Hope that helped.
I'm in the chat. You know, I love being in the chat.
In the chat
Sequoia
stream.
Sequoia's killing me now. Okay, so we've got people chiming in. Boy math versus girl math. It's not that. It's not that. I agree with
I don't even know
Donnell.
what that means.
I agree with Donnell. Somebody else. If you owe $1,000 or less, that house is yours. Hold on, you're helping me prove my point. I'm going to get to the part where I'm right. And he agreed with the fact that I was right because I
Okay.
remembered.
Can we agree? Paid off means you have the deed.
No, hold on. What is not
If I
paid
pay
off?
off my car,
Hold on.
I get the title.
You want to go first? You want to plead your case first?
That's a question. If I pay off my car, I get the title.
Yeah.
Until I get the title, do I own the car?
Okay.
We owe less than $1,000 on this home. Do
Hold
we
on.
have the deed?
Hold on though. Because the strategy is the strategy, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
what we have is a first position HELOC and we are leveraging our home. Let's just call it our home is collateral regardless of
Yes.
how much we owe on it.
Yes.
So the original amount that we had to pay, we bought this house, we said we're going to pay this amount, right?
Over the next 30 years.
Okay. Whatever. Have we paid the amount for the house off? Have we paid any expense related to the house being inside of the first position HELOC loan?
Yes.
Yes.
Specifically, but let me say that in English though. Let me just say, because I love what you just said there. Because I'm gonna just restate it. I'm not gonna say anything different.
Because
we
you're
had
about to say that I'm right.
No, you are right. Let me just put it there. The mortgage. What happens with the first position is the first position pays off the mortgage.
Right.
The first position HELOC replaces the mortgage. So there is no mortgage.
Right.
No mortgage is owed.
Yeah.
But you still have this balance on this line of credit.
Okay.
And the bank holds that line of credit until that line of credit is zero. So you will not get the deed to that home till that line of credit is paid off. So is there a mortgage on the home? No. Was the mortgage on this home paid off? Yes.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that with everything else that we have added to and we paid for the cars and the other stuffs, right? Investments, whatever else we've done with it.
Yes.
Has the home, is there any of that but the balance that's left? Any of it for a while now? Has it been related to this house?
These are other expenses, right? The balance on the home are really other expenses, not the expense of the home. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So
That's true.
if right now we wanted to, we could get the deed to the house and we could be completely free and clear, but we don't. Therefore, it's kept as collateral while we're continuing to use it because we've turned it into our bank. However,
correct. What? 100% correct.
Thank you. So we paid off our house in under 5 years, folks. And that's how you know that that's true. We paid the house off. We continue to leverage it for other things, which is the whole reason why leverage is so important. It doesn't matter what is in there. The point is that we can put it in the first position HELOC. We can put it in any of our other machines as well. We can put it in there. We can pay it off faster because we understand how leverage works. We paid this house off a long time ago. And if we really wanted to have the deed to this house, we could.
That's true.
In less than 5 years, in less than 10 years, in less than 15 years, like whatever you want to say, it's impressive. Less than 5 years is pretty dang impressive, but we actually don't know what the number is. We could not tell you exactly because we weren't keeping track to like make some big claim. But I think it's definitely under 5. I know that for sure. But we had put our kids' cars in there when they needed cars and other things that went to go be financed. And so we weren't like keeping it separate or even paying attention. We were just focused on, chopping down the debt and adding the cash flow, making that powerful. So,
if I'm listening to this discussion, I I would put this discussion in the bucket of good problems. And I think that's really what we hope this channel is for you. We want everyone to just simply have good problems. Because someone's going to say that, hey, this is still debt and whatever, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We have a vehicle that, if
Here's the
needed,
someone.
huh?
Here's a someone.
Right.
Yeah.
We have a
Thanks,
vehicle
Veronica.
that, if leveraged, we do not have to go to a bank and grovel and fill out forms and have a credit score of X, Y, and Z to be able to use this dollar amount to take care of things. We are literally our own bank. And so, well, if you take away nothing else, it's how can you become your own bank?
Yeah.
And be your own bank implies cash value life insurance policy. But notice, we're not talking about a cash value life insurance policy. From our perspective, it's about leverage. Where is your leverage? Your home, a cash value life insurance policy, a self-directed 401k. Like, there are many different vehicles out here where you can identify and go grab that leverage. It's grabbing that leverage and now understanding how to put it in position so that leverage can work for you. And
That's
I
right.
think at the core of what our home is a vehicle that works for us. We do not work for our home. Our home works for us.
Right. That also transfer. We should do a stream on why we got solar.
True
We
story.
should do that one because I was not on board with that either. As a matter of fact, I was really annoyed through the whole process about the
We've
solar
had
guy.
probably 4 or 5 consecutive days of about 118, 119. I am confident if we were in the position that we were in 3 years ago, our electric bill during this period would probably be approaching 1,000, if not 1,200 bucks.
For sure. Yeah.
And the strategy around why we got leverage was simply a mathematical equation.
You
It
mean
wasn't.
solar
Yeah. What did I say?
leverage. It is leverage
See,
though.
but it's leverage.
It was leverage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, it's leverage.
Yeah. And when you started to show me that and you were like, okay, let me show you the math though. Now we're leveraging. Matter of fact, we're leveraging our future selves. We're leveraging the electric company in the future right now by doing this. And the guy who was selling the solar, he didn't even understand why
no clue.
we sold it. That Donnell's over here selling himself because he was doing math. The guy didn't even understand. When he showed it to me, I went, holy cow. You know what? You're right. Then they wrapped up the new
HVAC.
all this stuff in there. And so when we started seeing the bill come through, and just to verify that everything was true, it's all been on track. We are in a different position, especially here in Arizona with this heat, than other people are or will be. In addition to just having options, right? That's kind of the point of taking control, is that you get to control what your options are. If you need to pivot at any point in time, you understand where your leverage is, you understand what it is you have access to. And for a lot of people with these rolling brownouts and everything else that they're experiencing, the one thing that we won't have to worry about is that. Partially because the city depends on our home to create energy for the city. Like, we have to sell it back to them, right? So just understanding positioning, I think, is probably the most important thing that we could all start to do in putting ourselves in a position where we have options. It's not even the power part. It's just making sure that you understand what your options are. That's really at a base level. We have some more questions. So
Yeah. And just remember, it's not one size fits all. There
yeah,
are many ways to 10. It's where do you have leverage that's not being fully tapped into? And how do you do so?
yeah. And that's what a lot of people say, like, why does your machine, why does it have these components to it? Why are these vehicles connected together? It's because this was just our journey, how we learned about things and how we started to evolve financially. Hi Ty says, leverage being the main goal is making more and more sense to me. Rushing to pay it off doesn't really solve or achieve anything. It really just depends on what you're talking about. And I think, to your point, it's not one size. You can't make general statements about things when then you look at somebody else's profile and you go, hold on a second, actually I would do that in a completely different way. This is how that would, if you structured it in this way, it would perform way better, yield 2-3 times the results. We just don't know what we don't know. So you're absolutely right though, Ty. It does, leverage is the most influential factor. Okay, Antonio, thank you for agreeing with Donnell. But also, you see how I was right this time.
Sweetheart, you are always right.
So, okay. So I think so yeah, Veronica, we do sell it back to the electric company. I don't know
Yeah,
what
it's
that really
not
means.
that does like this is an absolute true statement. We do sell the energy back, but is it like dollar for dollar? It's not. Like they're getting it back way cheaper than what it took to create. But the overall math is it's all about arbitrage, all about the spread, it's all about leverage. It is absolutely a vehicle that is working for us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, just what we pay versus what our neighbors pay, completely
Yeah.
different. So, Pokemon Sleep Deal says, I'm from the hood. No one teaches us about taxes or death insurance. I got 5K to play with. Show me the way, Sensei. I'm 30 years old right now.
Get on the calendar.
Yeah, that's what I would say is poke around on our channel and you will find, matter of fact, if you can find Alex, just text us. And we'll send you a link to maybe some good places to start. Or matter of fact, we don't even have to do that. You can jump in and grab our free resources. Just give us your email address and we'll send that to you. Yeah, go there and then free resources and it'll be right there for you. Or /live in selfdirected.info/live. And then there's a ton of free resources in there. The first thing you should do though, Pokemon, is get your numbers together so that you understand where it is you're going. And that's really where all of this is going. We're talking about financial security. We were talking about what if something happens if you pull a person or a piece out, a bit major piece.
Right.
It's tied to somebody inside of your financial security. What are you going to do? There's a lot of people who are in this position right now. For some people, that might be their kids. They were depending on having support from their kids, right? Like that's where some people are. What if something were to happen to them? What if something were to happen to your parents if you were depending on them? So we have to have this conversation, but what we were just discussing while we were talking about this particular example was, yeah, all of these systems, survivorship benefits and just survivor type of programs based on like Social Security and just access to types of care like that. Like the crew that's left out of that conversation are self-employed people, entrepreneurs. We don't have access to any of those things. So what does that mean for us and how do we create financial safety nets? There's a reason why 48%, more than 48% of entrepreneurs and people who are self-employed do not have a retirement plan. They do not have a financial safety net. And they are just still trying to get by or feeling like if they put this money and invest it, they're risking it. And so therefore they'd rather see it in cash because it makes them feel a certain way, not realizing that they get to the end and they end up having to sell everything that they have worked so hard for pennies because they put themselves in a situation where now they're desperate and they have to make this move or they can't continue with their businesses, right? There's a huge crisis happening in regards to financial security for retirement. And when I'm not talking about golfing, I'm not talking about being on a cruise, 10 months out of the year. I'm not talking about that type of retirement. I'm talking about just like even basic retirement, basic needs, saying I have aged out of my industry, I am too old to work, or I have put my time in and I should be able to retire early. Isn't that the whole point of having time freedom, financial freedom, is that you're not forced to trade your time for money anymore? Most people who start their own business, they don't start a business so that they can work 24/7, 7 days a week for the rest of their lives, right? Like that's not a vibe. Even us, we cut out a day of our live stream just so we could have more balance. We love serving and helping people, but we realize that if we can't show up and be depleted of energy or connection even with each other, right? We're not our best when we're like that. So we're like, hey, got to find a balance here. We have the ability to do that. I'm so grateful for that. And I hope we can help more people realize that for themselves and their families, that when their families need something, when they're maybe hitting a new level and things get a little bit more challenging, that you have the option to pause, take a step back, regroup. You can take as much time as you need to walk through the steps and do it in a healthy way. And I wish more families can do that. That's my goal. Okay, so
Good on questions.
yeah, I think we're good. So I guess we could give away a boat. We didn't give away a boat.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Let's get
All right,
outta
let's give away a boat. If you're new here, jump in the chat. We're about to give away a boat. I'm going to tell you why we give away this boat. And actually, it's kind of hitting home right now with the Olympics going on, right?
Yeah, US just won.
Yeah, what'd you say?
The US just won.
Yeah. Well, lots of people are winning, lots of gold, and really it comes down to persevering. So whatever
I meant
it
the rowing
is.
team. I'm sorry.
What?
I meant the rowing team. So
Yeah. Did you want any more? You want a little segment on the Olympics? My guy, this just in. Donnell with a special report on the Olympics.
rock on, sweetheart.
Okay. Hold on. I was trying to be funny, but my button wasn't up. Okay. The concept of the Olympics, concept of what we're doing here and the people that we work with as well is lots of people who are just tuning in. They have a goal. You have to have a goal. You have to know where it is that you're aiming for. For people in the Olympics, it's the gold, regardless of who it is that's winning. It's the gold, right? Like that's the biggest goal. That's the achievement. And for the majority of people, they don't even know to put financial freedom as their achievement, right? Like that's not even a goal a lot of people think that they can hit is true financial freedom.
Right. WTF moment.
Yeah, we know that's different. And so now we not only help people with creating their goals, establishing their goals, and being able to visualize, yes, this could happen for you. You have to be able to learn just the steps and to be able to achieve it. The decisions that we make along the way, though, that's what influences our results. And that's why we give away this boat, because it's a visual reminder of a story that has been so powerful here inside of our community. And we hope that it will help in your home.
In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over.
Where are we at?
There we are.
Oh, okay. Here we are. Golly. Should we do this new one?
I like it.
Yeah, let's do this new one.
No music though.
Well, we could fix that. All right, we got new people in here too to win a boat. Okay, cool. So it's a vision board kit. That's what we're giving away now. So let's see who is going to be our winner. We can only do one. Wow!
Congratulations.
And your first stream too. That's pretty exciting. Okay, so here's what you do.
I'll put it up this way.
Babe, can you put the banner up? Oh, it's not that one. You go to selfdirected.info/live or /winner first stream magic. I love that. Yes, congratulations. You're going to love this, by the way. I love that you're getting this. I love it. Hi, Shay Shay. We'll come back. We're gonna spin to win every stream. We do that. Great to see you in here. And you too, Crafts by You. See you jumping in for the boat. Matter of fact, she got sent a boat and then her boat never got there. I sent her another boat. Maybe something's going on there with her thing. Okay, so point is, congratulations, Pokemon Sleep Deals. Here's where you go to get your boat, right here. Take a screenshot if you want, and go claim your boat. Tell us where to send it.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Oh, I think this is too loud for you.
Squirrel.
Yeah, point is, we really appreciate everyone's time and spending your time with us. We know that time is the most valuable asset that we have, and we are so grateful that you're spending it here with us. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay, well, congratulations to the winner of the boat. We will see you when your form gets sent in, and we'll confirm that we've sent that out to you. If you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources, so don't sleep on those. Be sure to check back on our channel too. We're doing something kind of new this week, or this month anyway. We are posting a video in the middle of the week on our normal live stream day on Wednesday, and then we're streaming here on Sunday. So jump in, let us know. Do you like the new format? We would love to get your feedback. Of course, your comments, your likes, all you watching our videos, all of those help us grow and help us reach more people so we can help more people, and we appreciate that. So if you don't like the new format, if you wish we would change the day, like, we would love any of that feedback. That would be really helpful to us. We just appreciate you guys being here. So we will see you back here on Sunday. Check out for the videos, and anything else?
Have a good night.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on next Sunday.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you
Get self-directed.